The amount that Anil Ambani owes the banks is 10 times more than what fugitive billionaires Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi owes Indian banks. Yet, we don't talk about him much. Oh, sorry, Rahul Gandhi did for a year preceding the general election 2019. After the family separation of Dhirubhai Ambani, Anil seemed to have got what he wanted. You know, the new age telecom business along with the financial services and the energy business, which held a lot more promise than the bread and butter petrochemical operations, which formed the core of the group, and that went to Mukesh Ambani. In those days, Anil Ambani was brimming with confidence as he laid down his plans in telecom. He looked like a go-getter, ready to tap into the potential of Indian telecom revolution, and along with it, take the fortune of his group to great heights. Now cut short to 2019. Anil Ambani, led Reliance Communications, owes lenders Rs 48,000 crores. His businesses have shrunk to fixed line communications, data center services and enterprise solutions with revenue of Rs 4,000 crores in fiscal year 2020. A far cry from the 19,000 crores logged in 2008. कहाँ 19,000 करोड़ से कहाँ 4,000 करोड़ पे आ गए साहब? Even market capitalization of Reliance Communication has plunged from a peak valuation of Rs 1,65,000 crores in January 2008 to just over 1% of that value at Rs 1,600 crores in 2020. Now, what can be worse, right? Yes, there is a lot more worse than what you have been told yet. The combined valuation of Anil Ambani's all listed firms stood at Rs 24,000 crores in 2018. That shrunk to 6,000 crores in 2019, and it further sank down to only 1,700 crores in 2020. By comparison, Mukesh Ambani's Reliance Industries Limited had a market capitalization of 7,70,000 crores in 2020. Actually, most of the businesses that Anil Ambani inherited were cash-hungry ones and demanded complete innovation and investments on periodic basis. That is particularly true of telecom. For financial services, it's just a story of leveraging and the quality of your portfolios that you invested in. Reliance Communication was the most promising business Anil took over. He even fought harder with his elder brother Mukesh Ambani for that venture, and Mukesh Ambani, who actually nurtured and worked hard in establishing Reliance Communication, had to give it up. So when Reliance Communication started as Reliance Infocom in 2002, it chose the CDMA, Code Division Multiple Access Platform, CDMA platform, you might remember, which was then an emerging technology. However, rivals such as Airtel and Hutch were using the GSM, the Global System Mobile Communication Network. However, as the telecom industry grew, Reliance was at a disadvantage with CDMA, since it only supported 2G and 3G. When 4G came, Arcom lost out. And over the years, competition in the telecom industry intensified, with various players vying for more subscribers, lower prices. In a bid to stay in the game, Anil kept borrowing to grow and expand the business. Telecom is a capital-intensive business, and over the years, the industry was hit with price wars and falling profitability. And Reliance Communication was no exception to that. As Anil Ambani kept trying to grow the business aggressively, the need for investments went up, which meant he was borrowing more. That included network expansion, entering various deals, and even setting up a sister company for undersea cable network. The final nail in the coffin was his brother's entry into the telecom business. After the non-compete clause ended in 2010, Mukesh acquired Infotel Broadband and marked his foray into the telecom business. In 2016, he took the industry by storm with the launch of Reliance Jio Infocom, which sounded the death knell for Arcom, and the entire industry was shocked. Prior to entering telecom, Mukesh Ambani has not only kept a deep focus on his core businesses, but also added energy and retail over the years, and was lucky as his Krishna Godavari basin hit the huge gas reserves, and thus created a business behemoth through a disruptive process. The rise and the fall of one of India's most talked about businessmen in a little over a decade is a textbook study on how unbridled ambition, spreading oneself too thin in business and high leveraging of debt to fuel expansions can bring down business empires, especially if the business environment also turns adverse and hostile. When Dhirubhai Ambani died intestate after a massive stroke in 2002, the rupees 28,000 crore business empire that he had built over 25 years and which had made him a darling of the capital market, followed by Reliance Industries Limited's public listing in 1977. The brothers, Anil and Mukesh Ambani, were expected to run the business together. It was their father's legacy, after all, and it was built from scratch by Dhirubhai, who was once a petrol pump assistant in Yemen. Through a series of backward and forward integration moves in petrochemical, Reliance became the country's largest manufacturer of fiber, a raw material for the textile industry. The spat between the brothers continued until their mother Kokilaben stepped in and brokered a peace pact in 2005, supported by external negotiators such as chartered accountant S. Gurumurthy and banker K.V. Kamath. S. Gurumurthy is the main advisor of Mr. Narendra Modi, our Honorable Prime Minister, and he is the mastermind behind demonetization. As per the agreement, the petrochemicals business under Reliance Industries would go to Mukesh Ambani, while the telecom business, which Mukesh Ambani had nurtured so far, would go to Anil Ambani. The brothers also signed a non-compete agreement. Mukesh Ambani would not enter the telecom business, while Anil Ambani would steer clear of the energy and petrochemicals. Anil Ambani's flamboyant ways were evident right from the time he took charge and tied up with Hollywood filmmaker Steven Spielberg's DreamWorks Studios, making film for the global audience. Anil Ambani also bought multiplex chain Ed Labs from entrepreneur Manmohan Shetty for Rs 350 crores in 2005 and became the largest multiplex owner by 2008 with 700 screens in India and abroad. The brand name was the big cinemas. But the most risky investment he made, however, was in power and infrastructure. It was driven by cheap capital in the 2000s. A host of businessmen, including Gautam Adani, your favorite, the Ruiyas of SR Group, Hyderabad-based businessmen GMR of GMR Group and GVK Reddy of the GVK Group, and the Tata Group were driving huge investments in these power and infrastructure sectors and aggressively bidding for new projects. Well, not to be left behind, Anil secured 3 of the major ultra-mega power projects auctioned by the Government of India in 2008 and 2009. Reliance Infrastructure was bidding for projects in railways, power and roads. Anil was prone to taking up capital-guzzling projects immediately after the family split. Actually, his decisions did not come out of a carefully crafted strategy. They were driven by ambitions. वो फिल्मों में देखा होगा ना आपने एक हीरो जो किसी भी ऑक्शन में जा रहा है, जाते ही दुगनी बोली लगा देता है and purchase the finest thing. That was Anil Ambani for you. It was fashionable to bid for huge projects which were financed by public sector banks at the behest of the politicians. उस टाइम पे वो सरकारी जो अफसर जो मंत्री होते थे वो फ़ोन कर देते थे कि साहब आ रहे हैं उनको लोन दे देना जितना चाहिए, and it was granted. Back in 2008 and 9, so it did not matter what Rahul Gandhi said. The strike of global financial crisis and crash of Lehman Brothers in 2008, businesses were in a mood to splurge over acquisitions and expansions, both at home and abroad. However, the environment would see an ocean of change after the slowdown. Public sector banks that had amassed huge non-performing assets, the NPAs, after indiscriminately bankrolling infrastructure and power projects, were now reluctant to fund the sectors anymore. Even as many projects turned non-starters owing to land acquisition issues or problems with fuel linkages for power plants. Towards the end of the second term of the UPA government, nearly 2 lakh crore worth of projects were stuck after the bureaucracy went into the policy logjam, popularly known as policy paralysis, following the 2G spectrum controversy, in which the then telecom minister A. Raja of the DMK was accused of out-of-term allocations of spectrum to many companies, some with no experience in the sector at all, and Colgate scam, where similar charges were made regarding allocation of coal mining rights. Anil Ambani too was drawn into the 2G acquisitions when the CBI questioned him in 2011 amid the allegations that Raja favored his group of Anil Ambani on dual technology permits. As if all this were not enough, Anil entered into a long-drawn legal battle with Mukesh Ambani over the price of gas from Mukesh Ambani's oil field in the KG Basin to fuel Anil's proposed 4,000 megawatt power plant in Dadri, Uttar Pradesh. The apex court ruled in favor of Mukesh Ambani. In 2014, Anil Ambani ended up withdrawing from the Dadri project, citing issues in obtaining land and gas supply. Cornered in his telecom business and challenged by tough business environment in his other ventures, Anil had no option but to start selling assets. He was forced to consider selling off Reliance Power assets because huge projects worth of thousands of crores were left hanging in the fire either for lack of financial closures or unavailability of raw material. The same unavailability of raw material led the Adani Group to purchase the Carmichael coal mine in Australia that has environmental activists on the edge. 24,000 megawatt of power generation plants of Reliance Power led by Anil Ambani are shut due to non-availability of gas. Investment to the tune of nearly 1.2 lakh crores are stuck. The defense business he entered in 2015 by buying a defense and offshore engineering corporation for rupees 2,000 crore is mired in controversy. The opposition Congress has accused Anil of having unduly benefited in the $8 billion Rafale fighter jet offset deal. The only business that seemed to be doing relatively well is the financial services under the Reliance Capital, consisting of firms dealing with the asset management, life and general insurance, home finance and wealth management. The real trouble started for Anil Ambani around 2014 when the group companies began to feel the brunt of huge debt. Total group companies' debt stood around 1.7 lakh crores as of 2018. It then began to sell off assets and sometimes entire businesses. In 2018, Reliance Infrastructure, which had prestigious projects including the airport express metro corridor into New Delhi under its belt, sold the Mumbai City power distribution business to fellow industrialist Gautam Adani for rupees 18,000 crores. The same genre of risks were taken by Gautam Adani as well, but he turned them into successes, unlike Anil Ambani, because Gautam Adani ventured into businesses with a future potential. For example, Adani is India's biggest thermal power producer, but he hasn't shied away in venturing into renewable energy by starting Adani Greens. Adani did not make money solely because of Mr. Modi, as it is widely believed, as Anil Ambani had the similar support of both Congress and the BJP. Yet, Anil failed. Anil Ambani turns out to be the biggest loser of India's corporate history and holds a lot of lessons for what not to be done when you are born with a silver spoon.